Going. Okay, I'm gonna get started. Today I'm gonna be deploying Azure Kubernetes services. Just a little bit about myself. My name's Dennis Weston Jr. Come from a software development background. I do cloud architecture, DevOps work, CI/CD pipelines, API economy, service mesh, really anything moving to the cloud migration. So just here's my website. My company's Black Box DevOps. You can see some of our services. I'm a Microsoft partner. Recently just partnered with Datadog and have a few more in the works for like observability, API economy, service mesh, things like that. So some of the stuff we offer, we have some Azure support services if you need architecture design, IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, containers. We help with that kind of stuff, high level architecture, all the way down to how do you automate your code deployments and things like that. So we help you there. We also can do some resource consultation if you're looking for just some expertise to kickstart your cloud journey. We help with that. And then also just DevOps automation. So any type of CI/CD tooling, API tooling that you might want to implement, container scanning, things like that. And we just have a simple how to deploy an Azure virtual machine here. And we're going to be focusing mostly on Kubernetes today. So I'm going to go ahead and just look at some of the things that we're going to do here. Quick AKS deployment. I want to stay focused on deploying an AKS cluster based off of just the Microsoft example. I've done a lot of deployments in enterprise situations. So if you're really looking to deep dive, we can definitely talk about that. And then I can make more videos if we want to focus on things that are more in depth, like private clusters versus public. So what I'm going to do today is I already have a repo set up where I'm going to upload all of my live streams and any content that I do, if it's service mesh or Kubernetes or cloud deployments, PaaS, into this repo. And so you'll be able to download the code and run it yourself, and even give suggestions, or if you want to branch and use it yourself, you can do that. So I'm going to focus on some of the prereqs here. I already have my Azure account set up with my subscription, and I'm going to create a new resource group, a Kubernetes cluster. I'm going to focus on public right now, public cluster, just very vanilla, very high level, and then we can dive into more. So first thing it's going to want me to do is going to create a resource group. But before I do that, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. And I'm going to pull this over right here and close some of this stuff out. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to drop my window down here. And you'll see that I have a live stream demos folder. I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder for AKS. And then inside AKS, I'm just going to go deploy.sh. And we can go ahead and get started with that. I think I already have AZ CLI installed. Let's just make sure. I do, yep. Okay. And so I'm just going to copy this guy and paste it here. But before we can do that, we have to set up a service principal and we have to log into Azure. So usually what I'll do is I will do an AZ account login with the tenant ID, the subscription ID, and then you'll want to do an AZ account set based on the subscription here, and we'll get the ID for that, and we'll get my tenant here, and then this will be like username, password. But I also want to, for the live stream, I'm just going to show the location for this too. So if you just want to look at Google here and just search for it, AZ account login, it's going to just show you sign in with Azure CLI. So this is pretty standard stuff. Traditionally, I can log in with my account, my email account, if I don't have a service principal. Typically, when you're using a pipeline or any type of automation like we're going to do with a bash script, you're going to want to have a service principal attached to the individual account. And if you scroll down, it'll show you how to do that. So you can see this is just traditional AZ login, username, password, and then sign in with service principal is really what we're looking for. And I'll make sure to include these links with the content as I go through this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy this like I was typing it before. You can just see here, boom. And I'm going to go ahead and remove this. And so the next thing I'm going to need to do is go over to Azure, and I'm going to want to search for Azure Active Directory. And in here you have there used to be two types of applications you could spin up. There was a classic, but now we're just going to use enterprise. And I'm going to do a new application, and I'm going to do actually where is my service for? So yeah, create my own app, and I'm just going to call this AKS deployment Azure Service Principal. And we are going to want to do integrate other applications you don't find in the gallery. Yep, create. Give this a minute to generate. Should be fairly quick. I was cleaning up some resources, so you're going to see some stuff there. Okay, and it's done. So now we should be able to search for all applications, and we should be able to find AKS deployment. Yep. Oh, interesting. Why did it do that? Huh. Is it not? Maybe it's under it. Let me try doing it this way. That should have worked, but AKS deployment, ASP, single tenant, yep, register. Okay, yeah, this is what we wanted. Okay, so we're gonna want to use the application ID, and that will allow us to log in here. So I'm gonna go with this. And I am gonna just show these on here. I'm gonna eventually just delete this when we're done here, so people don't have access to my stuff. So what I'm gonna do now is generate a new client secret here, and I'm just gonna do a I don't know if there's I'm just gonna do like let's just do 3 month for now, and we'll just do AKS secret, and that's gonna generate a key for me, which is right here, and that's going to be my password for the service principal. So that's what we're going to want to drop in here. And then my tenant is going to be directory tenant. So anytime you spin up a new subscription, you're going to have a tenant ID associated with it. Depending on if you're a larger enterprise, you would actually go up another level, which usually isn't for public cloud. Usually you'd have something else to go to look at the directory. And so now I'm going to go back to my subscription, and I'm going to get my subscription ID so I can set the count. So in a larger setup, you normally would have a login that would go to this could be attached to multiple resource groups, or it could be attached to an individual resource depending on what it is, and then the role that it's assigned. So this could have contributor, this could have reader, this could have network reader. Maybe if you just have a monitoring service principal, so that's what that is. And so I'm just going to do my resource group AKS demo, and I'm going to do East US. And before I try to create a resource group, let's go navigate to our live stream folder, and we're going to go ahead and do chmod on oh, sorry, we got to go down one more, AKS, and then chmod on deploy. This is going to give it permissions to execute. Anyone that is not familiar with Linux, this is what you would do to actually execute a script. And then deploy. And if this works, you'll see that it'll let me. I don't have access, right, because we haven't added it to a subscription. So let's go ahead and do that. So right here, I have a subscription. I'm going to go ahead and go to access control. I'm going to try to find mine. There you go, AKS deployment. Oh, which one is it now? That's a good question. We created two. Let me go back and delete my other one that I had. Enterprise applications. What was my client ID? Is 44666 44666. Okay, so we're gonna want to get rid of this one. Why is it not? let's see what's going on here. Let's try it this way. Let's grab this guy, and we will go to my subscription here, go back one more. This is it. And let's just go I want to create a custom role assignments. I've already got 2. Let's add a new one, add a role assignment. I'm going to put reader access on the subscription, and I'm just going to search for it by ID. I might have to, let's try that one first. I don't know what, let's make sure that's the right ID. I have 2 in here now, so I have to be careful. Nope, that's not the right one. All right, let me add one more. You can see here, select role. We're going to do reader, and we're going to do AKS. Boom. Okay. And let's make sure that this is the client ID that I have. That one. Let's try this one. And so what I just did was I actually logged in, and you can see that it selected my AZ account set. So this is, select subscription. And then this is, auth with Azure Service Principal. And then what we want to do when we're authenticated is we want to create a new resource group. And so now when I save this and run it again, oh right, because I have readers. So in order to elevate it, we have to give it contributor access so you can actually write. So we're gonna want to click on this one, and might have to go back. Let me remove this. Let me go here, and we can just add another role assignment. We'll add contributor, AKS. I believe it was the bottom one. Okay, and let's just make sure that we got the access assigned now. So we've got a reader and a contributor. Okay, so now I should be able to execute it. Let's just see. And there you go, got a provision succeeded. So if we go back to Azure now, what we'll see under the subscription, we should be able to go to resource groups. And sometimes the UI sometimes takes a minute to refresh. So usually I'll just reload the browser. It might take a couple minutes to show up here. While it's doing that, let me just make sure it created it under the right, resource group, AKS demo. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so there it is. Yeah, it just takes a little bit extra to be able to view it. So now we can navigate to it, and we can basically go back to. So just to reiterate, we've logged into Azure. We've set our subscription ID. So now that any CLI command I run after this is now going to be able to execute any type of architecture we need. So we went ahead and created a resource group. We got back our output like you see here. Usually you have to enable these different providers here. I'll go ahead and execute them. I don't know that I need to do that because they should be activated, but let's just make sure I don't miss that step. Yeah, easy. Yeah, so okay. So it's activating. These are not actually required operations management and insights. If you wanted to activate the monitoring aspect of this, which we can go into deep dive on another video, that's just to enable container insights and things like that. And so now what we can do, and that's where you see like this add-on here. You don't have to do that, but it's, it is what it is. So the next thing is copy, and we're gonna drop it in here. Boom, and just so we have, just so we have these in the script when you do it, I'll go ahead and drop them in here as well. Another thing I usually do is I like to offload the variables. So usually you have like username And then you would do like this guy here, boom, and you could do password and copy it here. Careful not to get those characters, and then you just do these variable change here. So you can drop it in there and drop it in here. And then you can do tenant. What was that? Looks like my IntelliSense is not working. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Couldn't find formatted document. Yeah, for some reason my IntelliSense doesn't work. I'll have to fix that later. But yeah, but this is how you do it. So just offload the variables, and then I usually like to do like resource group equals that, and we'll copy the, oh, sorry, that's the subscription ID. Subscription ID equals this, and you can paste it here. And then resource group is going to go right here. Make sure to make this AKS demo. And you might do like usually just location, East US, and resource group there. You'll register your two providers. This only has to be done once per, I believe it's tenant. Once these are activated, you don't have to do it again. And let's just, before we continue, let's just verify that they actually registered. Yeah, registered. Okay, cool. Yeah, those sometimes those are async. They take a minute to upload depending on if you're using like preview features or something new. And then I want to go ahead and assign it the same resource group that I just created. I'm going to go ahead and put up here my cluster name. Boom. And we'll give it, let's just call it AKS demo cluster. Okay, and then you can do node count. That's one. So anytime you specify a node count under 3, that is considered development only. It's not recommended to put production workloads on here. I would not recommend doing this other than for demo purposes, or if you're just testing something just fairly quick, then this is good to do. Just cost effective and things like that. So just keep that in mind as you're working with this stuff. So I'm just going to keep commentating here. We got creating resource group, registering, monitoring services, and then deploy AKS cluster. Okay, and since we've done all these here, I'm just going to comment out these here. There is ways to just make sure that it's fail safe. So if you ever have to redeploy this, it doesn't get stuck on trying to create a resource group or something like that, or trying to re-register. Usually you'd want to put checks around these things to make sure that these are good. And depending on if you're going to do like API development for maybe the AZ-CLI stuff, you would want to have some type of unit testing around checking these things just to make sure that when you deploy it, it doesn't actually break something in the future. And so that should be it. Let's just look at the docs one more time. Yeah, that should be all we have to do. I believe that looks good. So let's go ahead and try to execute this. And it should log in again and deploy a AKS cluster to our new resource group if I didn't get something wrong here. Okay, so directory permission is needed for current user to register the application. Insufficient privileges to complete the operation. Permission is needed for current user to register the application. Oh, did I forget to add a permission? Pretty sure I had it right. Let's just make sure I didn't miss something. Yeah. Subscription. It's cause I didn't set the service principal on the subscription correctly. Let's go back. Here, role assignment. Yeah, what did I do? Contributor. Yeah, that should be more than enough. I'm gonna go and get rid of these. What did I do with my other one? I had role assignment for reader. Yeah, contributor, which is more than it should be. If I come look at the role assignments, contributor owner. Is this the right ID? 466, yeah. Insufficient of privileges. Directory permission is needed for the current user to register the application. I believe that's what I had here, but oh. Let's see what's going on with that. I thought I might have missed something. I'm just not seeing it. Yeah, I think it. Usually, what I'll do is I'll let it create a. I usually let it create a brand new service principal. Let's try instead of doing a service principal, let me just try doing an AZ login interactive and just see how that goes. Still set that, and let's just get rid of this, and this. Okay, try interactive login. See how that goes. You've logged into Microsoft. Yep, set my subscription. Okay, so close that. We'll close that, and let's try doing that again. Yeah, there you go. Create a new service principal. So usually this will take about 15 minutes. It's been getting better kind of over the last year. It's really sped up. It used to be 30 minutes, and now it's down, less than 15. So okay. While that's provisioning, let's kind of talk about some of the settings here. There's quite a few. If you ever go to like AKS create, I want to look at just to create. These are all the commands you'd be able to execute depending on what you're trying to do. Like if you're trying to roll in new updates or install some type of new endpoint, you can do that. But you can see here that there's a lot of stuff going on. So I'll just touch on a couple of these. So depending on if you're deploying Linux versus a Windows AKS node pool, you could specify things like admin user. If you're deploying a app gateway versus an Azure load balancer, and maybe you have if you're using like a private cluster, you might offload the networking portion of this to a firewall, like an Azure firewall or a Palo Alto, and they might actually own the subnets and the VNets that are configured. And so, if you need to deploy to an existing VNet and subnet, these are the settings you would use that would override some of those things. You can see if you're using like a standard load balancer, then you could start specifying like outbound IPs. Um, Everyone that knows AKS in a public, the only thing you don't have control over is it's the shared hosting model where Microsoft Azure will own the management plane, and you can restrict IPs based on private or public interfaces trying to access these. So this to me is like if you want to lock it down to a specific subnet that handles a jump box, you could do that with that setting. And then scrolling down, there's some new stuff like uptime SLA. So if you need additional nines and you need a high availability on the management plane, currently it is not scaled in a cluster form. So it's not like a scale of 3, it's a single entity. So if you overload the API endpoint, it could potentially cause a trickle effect inside your node pools if there's a lot of calls phoning home. So if you need high availability, it's recommended to use this, and this will have some additional costs associated with it. So just keep in mind if you're going to activate that. And if you don't want to generate the defined subnet, anyone that's used Terraform and AKS knows that there's some issues with how the route table and the subnet assignment gets set up, depending on if you're doing private versus public. So this allows you to skip the subnet assignment, so you don't have to deal with duplicate roles or one role in the subnet getting assigned half the IPs and maybe missing the node pool configuration. So they do a pretty good job. There's a lot of examples around here. If you want to deploy a certain Kubernetes version, the node counts, VM scale set versus the traditional just single VMs and availability set versus a VM scale set. If you want to have multiple outbound IPs on a standard load balancer, you can do that. You can see the standard SKU load balancer. There's some additional costs associated with that. It's recommended that you use standard if you're going to be doing production workloads. Usually when I say production, I mean anything that has clients running on it. If it's dev stage production, I recommend using standard. Treat that as like a production environment. And we're still running here. We probably can go look at the portal and see some of these things executing. Yep, and there we go. We have our demo cluster. It's just running on it's running on version 119.11. 120 is coming out soon, so you'll be able to look at that. And you can have different type of node pools. So this is where it gets kind of interesting. If you look at the node pools itself, you'll see that I've deployed a system node pool. So what you normally would want to do in if this is more of an large enterprise, you're going to be running a lot of workloads, you're going to want to offload all of your application specific workloads to a different node pool. That is, it's a mode for user. System is going to handle all your scheduling and calls back to the master API that Azure is managing. So this is really just managing your entire code base. And traditionally, I wouldn't add anything to these nodes unless it's something specific to the entire cluster in whole. Other than I would have different node pool if you have like security applications you want to do or monitoring, or you have clients that want to run on their own independent hardware. Then I would create different node pools, but I would make sure that I deploy them with modes with mode user. And you can see that. So you can do AZ AKS node pool type. I think it's mode, right? But let's take a look. We're gonna add a new one right here, mode. So let's try to do a search for this, and right here. So the mode for the node pool, which defines the node pool's primary function, if set to system, AKS prefers system pod scheduling into pools with the mode system. And like I said, if you use user, then you have control over that. You can use it through node selections. If you're doing like a deployment Kubernetes YAML file or a Helm chart, you can specify which ones it should be set on. You can also taint the node pool, so if it detects something trying to deploy to system, it won't allow the pods to spin up. It'll just tell them that they're in a loop back and that they're not allowed to do that. So you just want to keep in mind that there's different options there. Okay, great. So I have a SKU of basic and free. And if we go look at this cluster, we can see that it's running and it's got the endpoint here. And then you can see I don't know if I activated insights. It should have activated, but let's see. No data yet, but it does appear to be activated. So once it does spin up, we can see this and review kind of what's going on. Yeah, it needs some time to allocate. Okay, let's go on to the next piece of this, which is going to be not this one. We already went through authentication. That's good. That's good. These are the different commands we just reviewed, the different modes on the node pool. And so now it wants to try to connect to the cluster. I think I already have this installed, but let me just check right quick. So AZ AKS. Yes, I do have it. Yep. So we can, I don't need to install the CLI, I've already got it. And so I'm going to copy this here and I'm going to paste this right here underneath where the cluster was deployed. I'm going to go ahead and comment that out because we've already deployed it. And boom, we'll go there. And the cluster name. Okay, and so what this is going to do is it's going to connect to the AKS cluster and get the kube config that will allow us to connect directly to the cluster to perform actions like checking nodes or something like that. Okay. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and run this. You can see that it set my Kubernetes config. So let's go back to the quick start guide. Boom. And if it worked, we should be able to do like get nodes. And it does. So now we should be able to do kubectl get pods. There's nothing in here. What about namespaces? Yep. We could do pods dot namespace kube system. And this is going to show us all the things running. You can see everything's running successfully. So that's pretty much it. We have a working Kubernetes cluster that we can now deploy applications to, which they have this app here. I can try to deploy this. You can see it's looking for Linux, Azure Upvote services. Yeah, I mean, let's try to deploy it. So this is going to give us this file here. I'm going to go ahead and do demo app.yaml, paste it in. Minikube upgrade. I don't want to install Minikube yet, but I am going to do a couple of videos on what you can do with Minikube as well. So we're going to get a deployment file that is going to have this vote back application. It's going to have a service that is exposed. All right, let's do kubectl apply-f on demo app. And so kubectl get pods, and you can do -wait. And so eventually these will come online. So we have a front end and a back end. Looks like the front end is taking longer than it should, but let's go look at the code here. So deploy the app. Yep, deploy, test the app. We're gonna get the service. Okay, they want us to check to see if it's getting an IP. Okay, both the pods are running. And there's our IP. So since this is a very basic setup, we should be able to copy this IP and navigate to it, and we get the app. So we have this basic demo app that they've created, deployed in an AKS cluster, cats, dogs, reset, and it's working as intended. So, I mean, it's pretty powerful stuff to be able to go from literally not knowing how to use Azure to, you know, having a working application, a resource group, a service principal, and everything deployed in Azure to where you can then navigate to it. Now, there's more complex use cases where you want to have SSL and maybe you want to have an Nginx ingress controller to do SSL offloading or end-to-end encryption. And this is kind of where it gets into all kinds of different things. You have, different types of services where you have load balancers, you have node ports, and then you start getting into sidecar proxies that work with, open service mesh and different service mesh products that are, enterprise-wide that you could purchase. And so we can deep dive into some of that stuff and look at it further. But for now, I think that like the demo that we've done here, I think it's pretty good for just understanding the basics of how to do this, which is really what I'm going for the first couple videos. I recommend trying this yourself. And I'll upload this code, and there's some stuff we can do with Helm if you'd be interested in doing Helm as well. So the last thing it wants us to do is clean up the services, which I'm gonna put here and drop my resource group in here. Boom. And so this is going to delete everything in that resource group, including the app and everything. It doesn't delete the service principals, so you have to manually clean those up. And so I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to do deploy. And that should have done it. So let's go look here, and we should see this thing is being deleted. And again, this will take some time. You just have to wait, and eventually it will just disappear, especially when it has resources in it. It does take a little bit longer to clean up. So just be wary of that. It did execute, and you just have to wait. You can also add a wait. I added a no wait. That's just what they do by default. And you can usually see like in activity logs, it'll show, create what if something failed, if it's stuck or what it's doing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So think I have anything else. I don't think that their stuff recommends anything else. But yeah, like I said, I'll go ahead and push this code in. Let me go ahead and remove all my credentials from the video. And I'll go ahead and remove this service principal as well, and a tenant, and subscription, resource group. I'll leave some of this stuff. I just don't want to leave that particular thing in there. Interactive. Off without this stuff, or comment this back in. And we'll do get kube config from AKS cluster. And we'll do clean up resources. And I'll go ahead and also add in the kubectl apply-f demo app.yaml. And if you wanted to do something else where you wanted to kubectl create namespace like demo app namespace, you could create a new namespace, and you could do namespace would be demo app namespace. And so if you wanted to have more than one application, or maybe you have version control or multiple application versions that you want to deploy, like blue-green deployments, canary deployments, usually you'd want to separate the resources out of with their Kubernetes objects being, things that stay together. And also that's important if you're doing role-based access, where only certain people can see certain pieces of this configuration. That's also something you want to consider. So create demo app namespace and deploy demo application. Okay, and then I'm going to come here, and don't mind all this. I'm going to go ahead and close that out, and adding demo AKS deployment. Boom, push, allow, authorize. I think that's it. I don't remember. Boom. Copied. And there we go. So now if you come here, you'll have an AKS folder, you'll have the deploy script, and you'll have the demo YAML here. Yep, there you go. Okay, let me make sure. Let's check to see if the resources are cleaned up. It's still here, huh? It's weird. It should be. Infrastructure resource cannot be found. Okay, yeah, it's going. It's just taking a little bit longer than usual. Okay, that'll be it. Thanks for watching. Again, I'm glad that you guys are watching. I work for Black Box DevOps. I do a lot of content creation. And again, if you need Azure support, DevOps automation, resource consultation, just ping me. It's dennis.weston@blackboxdevops.com. You can also hit us here at Contact Us. Leave likes on the video, comments if you need anything there. And I've got my different pages that you can see here. And also at the bottom of the page, there's a contact block that you can submit if you have questions or if you need more information or if you're looking for some assistance. So appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.